I learned quite early on by way of a lot of the entrepreneurs and brands that I was inspired by, that the ones that were successful weren't just selling a product, but they were building brands by creating movements, leveraging culture. As an entrepreneur, you're a storyteller, right? And you've got to convince investors, partners, you've got to convince the consumer that you are the next bigger thing. And you have to convince people to believe in it. I honestly believe that from the outset. Did I think that it would get traction as quick as it did? It was really off the bat. I was shocked and I was surprised.
Andrew Salter, a Forbes 30 Under 30 entrepreneur and one of the creative minds behind DIRTEA, the functional mushroom brand making waves in the wellness space.
It was the summer of 2020 when DIRTEA was in development, but to use your phrase, screw it. I want to go 100% into DIRTEA. This is our mission. This is what I care about. And we did it. And I'm so happy we made that decision.
I'd love to know, where were you both mentally and emotionally when you and your brother decided to launch DIRTEA? What was the screw it, just do it moment?
Yeah, I guess it was a really interesting time. It was 2020, so in the heart of the pandemic. At that point, we had a venture studio, and we were working across 8 different brands that we had incubated and taken into market. And a higher percentage of those brands got immensely disrupted by obviously all the conditions that were going on. And I kind of started to realize that a lot of stuff was out of my control. We were fundamental to the growth of these portfolio brands. We had minority stakes in them, but we didn't own any of these businesses. We didn't control the decisions at the end of the day. They weren't our babies. They were just exciting ventures to be involved in. I think the pandemic was a shock for a lot of people. It was hugely disruptive. And some people use that as their advantage and as an opportunity. And we did that. And I think it was the summer of 2020 when DIRTEA was in development. But to use your phrase, screw it. I was like, I want to go 100% into DIRTEA. This is our mission. This is what I care about. This is our purpose. This is our life's work. And we did it. And I'm so happy we made that decision.
I bet you are. And as you say, this now is your baby. And you came from the creative services. What was initially maybe like the biggest fear into jumping into a consumer product?
Biggest fear. It's interesting you say fear, because I have so much confidence when it comes to consumer brands, just because I feel that is my passion, but also my expertise. I really understand the consumer, and I can always see where consumer market is going, which is probably why DIRTEA's been, a leader in the UK market, why we've been so innovative, why the brand and the marketing is often rewarded or recognized. So in terms of fear, I think, I try not to have too much fear in regards to these types of things. But I'd say that being an entrepreneur is quite fearful, because you're putting your entire reputation on the line. You're putting money on the line. You're putting time on the line. I don't know what the statistics are. You probably know better than me, Alex, but I think most startups do fail. And they are extremely risky, no matter your experience. We're obviously right the other side of that now. So fear of failure is obviously something that's always going to exist, but I have an insane amount of belief in the decisions we make and the strategy and vision we follow.
I prefer that, the belief and the confidence versus the fear side of things. I don't think we should have too much fear in our lives. But did you ever think that this is too niche, we're too early, or were you rewarded relatively early on with confidence from the market, from the consumer?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I've always seen working with niche categories, products as our strength. My brother and I are kind of known for our ability to take something niche and make it mainstream. Typically, that's through culture, brand building, and marketing. I could see where the market was going. The pandemic was an accelerator of something that was already in existence, and that was people were more connected and in touch with their health. I think when I was growing up, the way that I was raised is you only give attention to your health when there is a chronic symptom. And the point of reference is always that GP, that doctor. and they have a little book that they go into, and they prescribe you with some kind of medication. Usually it's antibiotics. And I've always looked at things in a very different way. I've always wanted to be in front of health, sort of like truly taking control. Yeah, so I saw niche as an advantage because I saw where the market was going, and I felt like we were a first mover. I guess there was like proof of concept because there were brands already in existence. One particular brand, back then had probably been going for almost 10 years, and they were doing serious money, and they proved the market. They'd proven the market. What they had got wrong, as well as some other competitors in the marketplace, they weren't product obsessed. As you probably know, I love marketing. I love brand building. It's what I know best, but that means nothing unless you have a great product. A lot of our competitors have proven, particularly in the US, that and a lot of wellness brands, that there is massive appetite for things like this now. And what I call that as an acquisition market. People will buy your products, but will they come back is another thing. And we've always been about building that ritual. So I think in answer to your question is like niche was an advantage for us because it allowed us to move quickly on something that was proven that there was a market there. And we've got we had the foresight where the market was going, and also we have the expertise of knowing how to take something niche and make it mainstream, and we've done that like 8 times over. That is where we shine.
And given your experience and your confidence, how did you go about getting like that first wave of customers, getting people kind of turned on to the product? Was it brand, was it distribution, or was it storytelling, or maybe, I don't know, a combination of all of those that made things just, click in the mind of the consumer?
I think the consumer was ready for a product like this, which is a really important thing. Timing was key. Culture was ready. For us, most people had never heard of functional mushrooms, which is at the heart of our products. Mushrooms at that time, and still to this day, just not as bad, was surrounded with misconceptions. When you talk about consuming mushrooms, people think that you're either going to get them high or they have an issue with the taste, because mushrooms are polarizing. You either love them or you hate them. So we had these immediate barriers that existed. So for us, education was key, and leveraging content to get that information across was fundamental. So we kind of leveraged social media and content to kind of build awareness around what functional mushrooms are. Because the more you learn about functional mushrooms, the more you realize you need them in your life. And that's kind of sort of how we started. Obviously, growth marketing and things like that are essential today, and you can reach so many people. It's becoming very expensive now. So brand building is essential. And that means like showing up in person at events, pop-ups, strategic partnerships. And when we've really done it all. And we were doing that quite early on as well, really building ourselves as a lifestyle brand, showing up in places people wouldn't expect a wellness brand as well. You'd expect to find a wellness brand at, a grocery place like, Whole Foods or Planet Organic. We were in unfamiliar locations because the way we positioned the brand. Our first partner was Selfridges, but we had to be disruptive. So we did the world's first mushroom bar, which Simon and I were at every single day for a month, working at Selfridges.
Were you? Wow.
Meeting Selfridges consumers. I think Selfridges is such a cool, sort of like platform for retail, right? And you can be edgy, you can be cool, you can be creative, and you're amongst the best, right? We were fortunate enough to be at the entrance. We were around like Louis Vuitton, Loewe, Gucci, and then there was this dirty bar in the middle. So it was like, in a sense, out of place, but we were very design focused as a brand. So like we kind of built it as a sort of luxury product that it wouldn't look out of place at a place like Selfridges, but also kind of elevating the aesthetics of the kitchen as well. So that's kind of really how we started the brand, which is like education because of the misconception. We are an authority in the marketplace because of how much we know about the space and mycology. We're backed by mycologists as well, which are biologists that study mushrooms. Showing up in person, having a design-led brand, being lifestyle orientated. Those are all the key things that we started with.
Yeah, and I think you've answered my next question, which was, functional mushrooms. It could be crowded space, could be misunderstood. How did you educate the market without losing cool? But I think the Selfridges story clearly ticks that box. But when did you think in those early stages that you were onto something, that you literally like, holy shit, this could really be something?
Yeah, honestly, I believe that from the beginning, because I think as an entrepreneur, you're a storyteller, right? And you've got to convince investors, you've got to convince partners, you've got to convince the consumer that you are the next bigger thing, and you have to convince people to believe in it. I honestly believe that from the outset. Did I think that it would get traction as quick as it did? It was really off the bat. I was shocked and I was surprised. I think a lot of some people may protest the idea that they had a very specific plan in place. We did that, but we also test and we learned so much very quickly. I think probably a key moment from me. I don't know why I'm using Selfridges as a reference again. They're getting a lot of airtime, but we did that bar 12 months into the brand. And when we did that, I think this is just like a really good way as understanding culturally where the brand was at. And I think 500,000 people either walked past or came to that that bar in the space of 30 days. 99% of people hadn't heard of the brand, hadn't heard of functional mushrooms, and they wanted to understand how we were selling drugs in Selfridges, which is really interesting. It was really successful, though, as an activation. That, by the way, now every single luxury brand, including Loewe, is now doing bars at the front of Selfridges. But 3 months later, in the July of 2022, Selfridges actually invited us back to do the activation again for a sleep and sex corner shop pop-up they were doing. So we came back and we did it, and all our products were around sex and sleep. I remember I wasn't in Selfridges every day for that activation, but I would pop in. The first time I popped in, I said, how's it doing? And again, everyone's coming in asking for DIRTEA. In the pop-up, it's by far our number one seller. And I was like, wow, it was amazing. And if I was to explain why that had happened, is because the brand had gone viral. We were viral on Instagram, we were viral on TikTok. And I think in that space of 3 months, we'd gone viral. The brand had a lot of awareness. And I think for me, that was a moment of like, okay, I think we've cracked it.
Interesting. And can you pinpoint why and how different pieces of content went viral then?
Yeah, I think someone asked me a few weeks ago if I could have any expertise today, what would it be? And I was like, I would love to just fully understand the algorithm because it's like always changing. And there are particular levers when you understand it really well, you can pull. And if you know how to pull them right and you know how to execute, you can make something viral. And I hired a content creator and I worked with them extremely closely. And the blend of them as a creator who built up a YouTube channel from a young age and now was looking for something new to do, I actually wined and dined him for like 2 months to get him on board. I had a real clear vision of what would make the brand viral online. I just didn't have the tools to execute all the time to execute it. So I basically worked with them for about 6 weeks. And 6 weeks later, the brand had gone viral. What we did to achieve that, if you did that today, it wouldn't even work because the algorithm is just constantly changing. I think there's some key things that brands are doing now that you're seeing startups going viral pretty quickly. The content that we were making was we sort of decided, he actually proposed to me. He said, let's go to loads of content creators and influencers and get them to talk about DIRTEA. I actually said that I am up for my brother and I being the content creators as the founders of the brand and the leaders of a movement. That's what we've created, a movement. And basically, we plotted a plan together, and we just started shooting loads and loads of content. And after a few weeks, this started to get traction. We went from getting 5,000 views to 100 views to 1 million views to 4 million views. And literally every time we posted a video, if it was under 100,000, we were like, we failed.
Yeah.
So I'm just constantly trying to look clearly at the algorithm and understand how to really kind of hack it.
Is that content creator still working with you out of interest, or are they doing their own thing?
They're doing their own thing now. Yeah, they've got about 2 million followers themselves now.
So how much do you think, because I know a little bit about your brother Simon as well, how much has your personal stories played in the brand? Like, have you ever doubted how much to share, for example?
Yeah, I think it's made the brand really relatable and human. I think that we obviously went through our own like personal experience, which was, I kind of feel like not everyone, a lot of people in our generation go through, which is expecting our minds and our bodies to be able to be invincible. And I think for us, we were taking on so much work because we've always been ambitious, and we love what we do, and we love to travel the world building brands. And we took on too much, and we weren't sleeping enough, and we didn't have the right diet. We didn't understand the importance of nutrition. We just were like, I guess the stuff we were fueling our bodies with, to like over caffeinating ourselves, sugary drinks, feeding ourselves just to fill us up. What we thought was giving us fuel was actually just breaking us down. And I think that it was like almost a bit of a breakdown that unveiled a breakthrough. And it was when, Simon turned around to me and said, we've got to stop chasing these quick fixes and look into nature and find things that are going to help us to be healthier and function better. And obviously that we discovered lots of things, and functional mushrooms is what stood out for us, hence this sort of personal journey. And I think people have, and we probably don't talk about it enough. Maybe forums like this is where it comes out the most, because it's more long form. And I think maybe we don't talk about it enough is because we turned that, breakdown. It's not breakdown, it's burnout, but probably the same thing. We found something that transformed us. We studied it. We turned that passion into expertise. And now we're translating what we learned and experienced into others, in the form of content experiences and now product as well. But I think it's made it really relatable. I think what we're really trying to do as a brand now is just go deeper into the science and the efficacy, because I kind of think when we started this brand, which is over 4 years ago now, we kind of were like the only wellness brand that was appealing to a mainstream audience. I think as wellness has become somewhat of a lifestyle for all of us now, it's how we live our lives. The market has become massive. The opportunity has become massive, and it feels like a gold mine. It's either AI, cryptocurrencies, or wellness right now. And the barrier to entry is so low because there's limited regulations. And you can get, a brand live pretty quickly. You can call up a manufacturer and get stuff white labeled, but no one has the expertise. No one knows about sourcing. No one understands what's a clean product. No one understands efficacy. And when I say that, I mean the consumer and the people that are starting these brands. So our job as a leader in our category and a leading wellness brand, is to ensure that the story we tell now is, yes, founded for a personal experience, but actually we have to tell the story about quality and efficacy. Because for me as a consumer who doesn't just consume functional mushrooms, I consume other products as well. I will only buy the best. You know what I mean? I want to know the science. I want to know how it was sourced, where it was sourced from. I want to know it's clean, it's pure. I want to read the back of labels. That's how I am as a consumer. And a lot of brands in our space and other wellness brands, the majority don't have that. So that's become more of this. We are very relatable because we're human, but also we really do lead with sort of the science and the efficacy as well.
So when are you going into AI and crypto then as a brand?
Well, AI, we're already started. We've integrated a lot of our businesses sort of AI, and looking more on the creative side as well. I've been approached a lot about doing things around crypto currencies. But haven't given that time yet.
And what was harder for you personally when it comes to like building the brand? Was it product or was it storytelling? Because storytelling clearly seems to come naturally to you, but equally your background in building those other brands and helping them get their product in front of a mainstream audience. Interested to know which was harder for you.
I think that product is probably, I think they're equally as hard as each other and equally as challenging. Product is always a challenge because the standards we hold ourselves to, like I say, purity, clean products, efficacy, high amounts of active compounds. Like that's the reason we started this, to create a change in the world. We started it because it came from a personal place, and also I think that our advantage over anyone coming to the market is our product. What comes with that is the fact that like it's expensive to source high quality ingredients. To find it is near impossible. And also, I think taste is really important. And when you have high quality products, sometimes that compromises taste. So we've really worked so hard to make our products taste really good. I think you take some of our products, including the gummies.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Lemon flavor this morning.
So we've been able to achieve that, but I'm so product obsessed. I'm just unsatisfied with that. And I always believe in, I heard someone, I think it was from the LVMH, said not that long ago, you've got to transform on the way up. Like, so our coffee product, for example, Dirty Coffee, is we're on our fourth iteration. We're about to move into our fifth. And for me, who's a coffee drinker, I won't be satisfied until it tastes like the coffee that you go and get in your favorite coffee shop. But it is very good. Like a lot of people absolutely love it, and people love it because of its benefits. People do love the taste, but I don't want people to. I just think to build a successful business in the way that we are, it should feel like whatever you buy from us is better than what you're already getting in terms of like taste and also the benefits you're going to get.
Funnily enough, like when I came to the Optimization Summit, which probably was 2022, I'm thinking you had like a pop up there, and that's the first time. And I'd had like your coffee there, but yeah, was the cacao around then, or was it since then?
It probably was. That was our second super blend product, so it could be over 3 years now that we've had that. And that's a great product. People love that actually in the evening. It's got reishi mushroom in that, so it has a unique properties in it that improve your non-REM and your deep sleep. So it's not a sedative, it doesn't put you to sleep, it improves the quality. A lot of that is around it detoxifies the liver. It can soothe stress and anxiety. It really can calm the mind. And the blending with cacao has incredible properties as well. It actually helps transport a lot of the active compounds in mushrooms to different parts of the body, the lion's mane, which is in the cacao, to the brain. So it actually helps with like the focus, the recall, and sort of like mental resilience.
The question I've got was, so you helped launch, I think you said like eight brands that you were working with before, and you obviously would have learned a lot of lessons along the way there, but those weren't your babies, as you said. This is your baby. Was there anything that surprised you when you launched Dirty for the first time that you maybe weren't aware of, that you'd wish you'd known?
I guess with the other brands that we incubated, I wasn't operational. So a lot of what we did was go to market. So, well, actually, product development, go to market, growth, and scale. And essentially, that is like launching new markets, adding new revenue, helping the businesses to pivot. One business we actually pivoted twice, which exited a couple of years ago, was fundamental for the business, which is something that Simon and I fully drove. Those are the sort of components we're very good at. Operationally was kind of new to us, but we learned really quickly. Sort of scenarios where we are importing ingredients fundamental to our blends that get stuck in customs, and you can't get hold of anyone to get the product released, and it gets stuck for 3 to 4 weeks, and then you find out that someone from FedEx is just being lazy and won't get up their seat and go to the customs, which is literally next door to FedEx in Heathrow Airport, and find the cylinders on shelves that are in there, which is what someone told me as a consultant. Just tell them to go and check for the product. But like situations like that, you just are never going to be prepared for. And you go out of stock, particularly for a product like ours, where people are consuming it every day as a ritual. And we ended up running out of stock, and we were offline for 2 weeks. And that's just a great example of something you don't prepare for. Yeah. I kind of feel like when you get to a business our size, you end up being like a firefighter. I think your team comes to you with problems every single day that you have to navigate, and it doesn't get easier as you get bigger. That was a sort of surprise. How many subscribers, customers, retailers we have today, I would have dreamed of a year and a half ago. And I was probably in mind thinking, once we get there, everything's going to be amazing. But actually, now I've got an even bigger goal in my mind, and yeah, it is as challenging now as it was in the beginning. So that's, I guess, what the journey is going to be like until we exit.
Yeah, and funnily enough, it reminded me of chatted to Al Barrow a few times on Grenade. Who's a friend of mine now, and I remember we did that interview after he just exited to Mondelez for couple of 100 million, and I was just what's changed, and he was just like, I just fight bigger fires. He goes, I literally come into work and I literally just feel like a fireman, just going around the building. People coming to me with different fires to put out, and he goes, I'm kind of done with that now. I was like, I totally get it, because you've been doing it for over a decade at the time. I think maybe they were 13 or 14 years before they exited.
Yeah, I think one of the things I realized quite early on was bringing in the right expertise and hiring really well, which has always been a challenge, is finding the right people, and not trying to do everything yourself, which I've kind of learned pretty early, and just being the visionary and being the person just to empower people and support people and allow them to do their job. And that's what we're doing here, just building a great and exceptional team of people that have done it 2-3 times over, and just learning from them and then doing what I do best.
Yeah, and that is without doubt, from the 600 odd interviews over the years that I've done, whether it's Julian Hearn from Huel or somebody like Al Barrett, everybody's answer is it's hiring and then retention are the two hardest things when it comes to building the business. So what's been the hardest day building DIRTEA so far, and how did you get through it, Andrew?
I feel like I covered that with that stock situation.
Yeah, no, that can tick that box.
Yeah, no, because honestly, it was really, I tell you what actually was also going on that day. We were either a team of 4 or 5, and everyone for some reason had booked a holiday for either a week or 2 weeks. And my current office manager at the time was really sick. So I was the only person in the office. So I was handling absolutely everything, including customer service. So I was responding to every single customer going like, where is the product? And no one has any sympathy. Obviously, when you communicate with them, they start to understand things at that time, being a new business, whilst being on the phone to like suppliers all around the world, speaking to the courier service, speaking to customs. It was a real sort of challenging moment that I didn't see how we would sort of overcome. But the backlash of that, it went on for weeks. And it's funny, we had new people joining the business, and it was like someone that was starting either in partnerships or in retail sales. And we said, okay, we know we interviewed for retail sales, but we need you to do customer service. And it went on for a few weeks. That was crazy.
Yeah. I want to talk about growing, scaling, launching in the US. I read a really good article in Forbes where you said, we're not trying to build a wellness brand or a supplement. We're building a next generation of daily rituals that are powered by mushrooms, backed by science, and designed for a culture running on empty. Talk to me a little bit about that, because that's a great quote.
So yeah, I think I learned quite early on by way of a lot of the entrepreneurs and brands that I was inspired by, that the ones that were successful weren't just selling a product, but they were building brands by creating movements and leveraging culture. And I learned that quite early on. And we did my first learning of that was, I mean, it's really interesting because if you look at something like Lululemon, they're selling stretchy pants, but they've actually reshaped identity. MTV is also really inspired me when I was growing up, right? They changed, they created pop culture. Live Aid is another great example where they took culture and they saved lives. So I've always found these, even like Nike took running and made it a lifestyle, right? So these have always been like points of inspiration for me. I feel Simon and I found something that was transformative for our lives, but we didn't want it to be this kind of like supplement brand that was tedious and you had to take every day. We wanted it to feel a joy, a pleasure, but also we wanted to build an experience around it and create a movement. It was a belief that we had, and we wanted to. A lot of brands start today and they think you can build a brand on ads. You can't do that. It's about showing up in person. It's about building within community. It's allowing people to join a movement and believe in what we're trying to create. And that's why we've been successful in the UK. And that is why, arguably, I think like DIRTEA is one of the most recognizable brands in the UK. I'd say mostly London for that right now. That's obviously going to change very soon with some deals that we've done with National Retail. And that's the energy we're taking to the US. I think a lot of brands that we'll be competing with in the US already are now. They're very claim based. It's kind of like growth hacking, which is say anything you want or can, and shock people into buying your product. But where's the community? Where's the movement? Where's the culture? Like the biggest brands today, I've obviously spoken about a couple just now, they are building movements. And we learned that ourselves. We created a movement called Feeling Nuts, which we found out about a boy who lost his life to testicular cancer because he was too embarrassed to tell anyone he had found a lump. From meeting the mother, we found out if he had caught it early, it was fully curable. If you catch it early, it's fully curable. And had he had taken action early enough, he would still be alive today. So we took it upon ourselves to create a movement called Feeling Nuts, using social media to get the message across and empowering people to spread that by going nuts and making it fun, engaging, entertaining, using comedy as a way to engage people, and then landing the education and changing that behavior. 1 billion people got behind that, 157 countries. It was absolutely mad. And then it culminated on a TV show hosted by James Corden and Jack Whitehall. And an amazing brand was created out of that for sort of saving lives. And that's the energy we've brought to DIRTEA. And I genuinely believe that's been the key to the success of it.
Without a doubt. And when you, not that you're going to compare the UK to the US, but when it comes to building community with a country that vast, what kind of challenges do you foresee that you think you've already got the tools to kind of overcome it, given what we've just talked about that you've got in your locker from before?
In term for the US, I think we've got a really clear strategy of what we're doing in the US, which is very much from a brand perspective. It is community driven. I think we're in a bit of a fortunate position where our brand's gone viral. We have almost 800,000 followers on social media, and a lot of them are in America. We 40 to 50% of all our inquiries are not about our product. They're about, when are you coming to the US? So we intentionally held back the US launch. and now we are gradually moving into sort of the market with an existing community that are already out there, who have learned about us through social media, and we engage with like regularly through email, and through content as well. So we've kind of been building that for quite a while now because of the way we've created our content. And now we're just kind of activating it. So we're going to be doing a lot of the same stuff we did in the in the US that we did in the UK. Yeah, which I can't talk about too much, but it's underway.
So, have you had thoughts or conversations around where you're going to be basing yourselves, like how much travel? And I only asked that because former guests on the show, two brothers, had a digital transformation business, and they ended up with one of them staying in the UK and the other one moving to the States. And he chose Denver in the Rockies, which I thought was an amazing place to choose. And he's still there, years later. But interested to know, have you thought about anything like that?
I haven't made a decision yet. I've been spending a lot of time in New York, LA, and Miami. I would say that our type of products are now going mainstream, and it's not just about those flyover states. But I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the US. Just not settled in a particular city yet where I'll be based.
And if you hadn't chosen to launch Dirty, given your previous experience, where do you think you would be now, and what would you be doing?
That is a really good question. I think what I mentioned to you earlier on in the podcast about that moment during the pandemic when I was like, I'm going to go all in on Dirty. I think that was one of the best decisions I ever made. So I think it would be doing our own brand, but probably in the space of health and wellness. There's nothing I believe more than functional mushrooms. But there are other things that I think are really interesting. I think the longevity space is really interesting. So I think it will be doing our own brand, but probably another category of wellness. But mushrooms is what I believe most in, just because the transformation I've had and the science around it.
Last question, then I just got a very quick fire round. What would you say to somebody who's listening or watching to this who has a product idea sitting there and they still haven't taken action? They still haven't, said, screw it, just do it. What would your advice be?
Yeah. I mean, I'll come at this sort of two parts. Is like, there's a component where I'm like, don't like overthink, like you can talk yourself out of any problem, and your mantra, screw it, just do it, is absolutely what they should be doing right now. Having said that, I think it's really important to sort of research the space and really understand where the white space exists and where the opportunity is, where the market is going. So I would do a level of research and have a good strategy, but just don't overthink it.
Okay, good one. Quick fire rounds. First thing that comes into your head, short and snappy, Andrew. For you, what constitutes an entrepreneur?
So I think is finding a gap in the world where you can fill it. Typically, it's problems that you've probably had yourself, and you've got that solution, and you think it's going to apply to a big marketplace. Even if it's a niche, go and own that niche. I think being an entrepreneur, I covered this before, it's so bold. You've got to be fearless. You've got to be tenacious. You've got to have this self-belief because you're putting everything on the line. You're putting money, you're putting reputation, you're putting time, you're putting it all. Obviously for substantial upside, and that's obviously the risk reward. But yeah, I'd say it's like a blend of problem solution, knowing that you can execute, knowing you can believe in yourself, and realizing you're risking it all, but for substantial upside.
And given you're in this space now, aren't you? What constitutes a scale up business for you?
So I think scale up is where you've really got proof of concept, product market fit. You got substantial customer base with good retention, if that's what your business requires. I think the kind of LTV to CAC ratio is a really important metric in terms of what you're investing to acquire that customer and how much they're spending over time, because you've got to spend a lot of capital sort of growing the business, and that particular metric is really key. I think seeing that there's real growth potential. You've got to be, growing your business sort of like 40-50% plus each year, ideally over 100% each year. And I think you've got to be seeing yourself to be able to move into multiple verticals. And I think you've got to see yourself as ability to grow out on, just the UK market. I think there's a huge opportunity in the US, which is what we're obviously experiencing and realizing that now. But yeah, I think those are all the components that are really important, and then having a team that can actually execute that vision.
Perfect. Last couple, what does the UK need to do to get more scale-ups?
That's a great question. I think in the UK, I'd say entrepreneurs and investors are a lot more risk averse. I noticed that culturally when I'm in the US. And I think that is a real cultural issue. It's kind of easily said than done because I think the US is such a massive market. You've got over 300 million people. So the prize is big. It's the biggest consumer market in the world. But I do think that, that some of the entrepreneurs are absolutely crazy and mental. And sometimes it's either a rocket ship or it's a train crash. And we've seen that event happen over and over again. But I think there's probably too much focus on like getting to profitability in the UK, and not enough on like really going for that blitz scale. You could unpack that and say like that culture is really dangerous, but it's the reason why you have the biggest consumer brands in the world are founded and built in the US. But it can go horribly wrong, right? The WeWork story is a great example of that. So I think investors have matured and entrepreneurs have matured from that. I think you've got a real culture of just looking at top line growth, which is starting to shift and starting to change. I also think that people need to be a lot more helpful and open as a community in the UK. You go to the US and people really buy into your talent or your vision, your product, and they want to see you go all the way, and they really do sort of support you. I think in the UK, it's the exact opposite of that. I know it's that stiff upper lip sort of culture. And I think, a lot of people who have made that move into the US from the UK, a lot of them sort of say, I should have done move into the US. A lot of them said I should have done it a lot quicker. And I think you can get to scale a lot quicker in the US. And definitely there's advantages that exist out there, but a lot of it is to do with, I think, the mindset, and a lot of it's to do with access to capital. I think raising money in the UK is so hard. In the US, it's a lot easier. I reckon you could raise more money in the US quicker than you could do in the UK, because we spend a whole year raising money in the UK. You could probably do it in a quarter in the US. So I just think being a lot less risk averse, I think being a lot more open. I think there should probably be more government incentives in terms of backing UK businesses. And I think everyone should just support each other a lot more in the UK. I think we'll get a lot further.
Agreed. Yeah, I was going to ask you why the USA better at producing scale-ups in the UK, but I think you answered that with regards to, more help, access to funding, mindset, all of those things. Last question, Andrew, and thank you again for your time, would be, and this can be somebody from your past, this could be somebody more recently, but which founder inspires you most?
God, I've got quite a few. I get inspired by a lot of different people. I'll be a bit unconventional, and I'd say, can I say a few? I'll be a bit unconventional. I once read a guy called Jerry Weintraub. I read his book in one night when I was living in LA. And Jerry Weintraub is famous for promoting Elvis. There's an amazing story, actually. He also managed Frank Sinatra. He's the man behind the Ocean's 11 films. If you looked up the definition of hustler in the dictionary. I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry Weintraub's name is in there. But he's just got there's some incredible stories in that book about how he rang can't remember the name of the manager of Elvis, but he rang him every single day until he was able to convince him to promote Elvis, and he basically eventually gave him one show to promote of Elvis. He said, if you sell it out, you can have the US national tour. The night that the show was happening, it didn't sell out. So he basically got men, I think, from the military to come to the arena and remove seats. So he could meet, because he could take Elvis's manager into the arena and say, look, I sold it out. Every seat is full. I just loved his book. I really enjoyed David Geffen's story as well. He's a very controversial character, but he made more money in the entertainment business than anyone else. Funny enough, I always loved Bob Geldof because of what he did with Live Aid, and that really inspired me when I was young. Richard Branson is the god of all of them, right? In terms of building sort of personal brand, and what he's done with the Virgin brand is a massive inspiration for me. I mean, there's so many.
It's funny you mentioned Live Aid twice, and I was just interviewing a couple of days ago Simon Woodruff from Yo Sushi and Yotel, and I didn't realize. I knew his background was a lot of his entertainment, and he said he actually built the set for Live Aid, and he'd done the tours for everybody from Rod Stewart to Elton John, but he was telling me about Live Aid. I said, I never knew that. It's such an interesting.
Yeah, I knew his brother years ago, whose name is Patrick, and he still does. I think he's the number one lighting designer in the world. And he does the Rolling Stones Super Bowl halftime show. I think he did the lighting for Live Aid. Yeah.
Wow, interesting, man. Very cool. Well, look, love the story, love the brands. Wish you continued success. Last question would be, what's the end goal for you? What's the vision at this point? And we're catching you virtually exactly 30 days into launching in the US, maybe four and a bit years into your journey. Yeah, what does that look like for you, Andrew?
I think the first thing is we want to be the hero mushroom brand of the category. I think for us is we want to dominate the US market. And then globally, I think for us is we set ourselves a precedent in the beginning in terms of standards in regards to the quality of our products and also how they fit into people's lifestyles. So I think trailblazing that goal is really key for us to be the mushroom brand globally, not just in the UK. We've achieved the UK. But I really do believe that there are specific things people should be doing every single day. Functional mushrooms is right at the top, but there are other things as well. So I would love a scenario where we could broaden it out and become a health and wellness destination for products that make people feel great and allow them to be more productive, have better energy, and live a more purposeful life, because that's what I've been able to achieve. And if I can translate that and share that with our community through incredible products and experiences, then that would be the dream scenario. Obviously, we want to exit this business. My desire would be for it to go public and continue the journey, and build this amazing brand that really impacts people's lives.
Amazing. I've no doubt you will achieve all of those things.
That's very kind. Thank you so much.
Andrew Salter, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
If this conversation resonated with you, don't just sit there, act on it. Make sure you follow or subscribe for more game-changing conversations, and remember, the only thing standing between you and your business breakthrough is the decision to screw it and just do it.